What's up, everybody? This is Toy Addict 26, also known as JP, and today I'm really excited. We're going to be talking shop. We're talking about the toy addiction, and I myself am a self-proclaimed toy addict for many years now. And as you can see from behind here, this is just a taste of the stuff that I have. But today I'm really excited to have my very first guest in my Toy Addicts Anonymous meeting number one, and it's none other than from Four Horsemen fame, Mr. Cornboy. So here he is. Welcome, Mr. Cornboy. Thank you so much for joining us today. And like I said, this is something new. It's fresh. It's Toy Addict. So go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, everybody. I am H. Eric Cornboy Mays from Four Horsemen Toy Design Studios. I'm 50-something years old, and I am a toy addict.
All right. And I think the first thing about accepting when you have an addiction is understanding and accepting that you have that I wouldn't call it a problem because I think it's something. It's a driver for me. Toys is something that just brings happiness to my life. You know, my wife doesn't seem to understand that, and this is kind of what I'm going to get into. It's like how does our addiction, how does our collection, our hobby affect our everyday lives? How do our significant others feel about these things? How has it affected our lives on a personal level? So first of all, how do you figure out if you have a problem? First, you might recognize common signs of addiction, like negative consequences of neglecting your responsibilities, like work, school, and home. It can be hard to admit these facts to yourself. That's where Toy Addicts Anonymous comes in, and that's what we're planning to do here. So, first and foremost, I wanted to ask you, when did you begin collecting, and what got you started?
Well, I've been collecting since I was young, both comics and toys. I started out more as a a comic collector, and I didn't even really know the word collecting. I just grabbed stuff that I wanted, but I saw a comic in the grocery store and thought it looked really cool. It was a Marvel 2-in-1. I had seen some comics before then, but this one I was like, it was drawn to it. It was Marvel 2-in-1 starring the Thing, and I think it was Submariner was the other character that was in the book. And I couldn't resist. I ran to the bread aisle, grabbed my mom, dragged her over to the book stand, and said, "Look at this. Can I get that?" And Mom was like, "Yeah, sure," and handed it to me. And I was always into like action figures and stuff, but I wasn't avidly collecting any one thing. Mego action figures were my big thing, but I wasn't avidly collecting any of that kind of stuff yet. But that comic, when I was reading through it, just looking at it, I could imagine these being three-dimensional things in my hand, playing with them and stuff. And I just, that's it. Like I could see it was almost like a movie reading these comics, and it just drew me into like, oh, I want these. I want to be able to make my own story with them. I can play with them and have fun with them. So that's what kind of got me into collecting toys. And like I said, I was really heavy into the Mego stuff when I was a kid. And the first time I walked into a Scott's TG&Y store, a little bitty store in the Midwest, and saw the box versions of the Fantastic Four on the shelf, I was hooked. I had to have them. I grabbed those, and I went in there with like a handful of money from mowing lawns, and I went in there and picked up. My first two were the Thing and the Human Torch, my two favorites of the Fantastic Four. The Thing is my all-time favorite superhero, and I got home with him and I played with him nonstop for hours, and then I started going back every time I got money. I was going back and buying more. The other two, my first two, were Reed and Sue Richards from the Fantastic Four, and from there it just snowballed. I had to have every single Mego figure that came out. I wasn't as much into the DC stuff, but I still loved it. The Marvel stuff was just my thing, and I was just buying those left and right. And that's kind of where everything started. That kind of blossomed into Micronauts, and I went crazy for the Micronauts. And Yeah, and it's been as you can see around me here, it's been a sickness ever since. And like you said, some of the stuff here, this is all just a real small droplet of what I have because I really have a problem because I actually just got rid of a lot of toys, and we're getting ready to move in a few weeks. And I counted up the tubs of toys that I just have in the basement that I need to move, and in a storage space, I have 44 tubs full of toys that have to be moved. 44 like plastic tubs.
Oh
That's
my
not
God.
what's in here. That's just in tubs that have to be moved. So yeah, it's a sickness.
Let me
It
ask you,
started
are
out
you
started out with the Thing and the Human Torch, Mego figures, and it grew into insanity.
an opener? Like, do you keep anything
Oh
packaged?
yeah, no, no, no. I'm absolutely an opener. You're not going to see anything here. I don't like display anything in package. I open everything and play with it. I'm just
You open up all them shits, huh?
yes. It goes the packaging goes right in the recycling. I don't even bother like keeping the packaging because it's cool art. I appreciate the packaging. It's what initially draws me to something if it's on a shelf in a store. And some of the artwork on packaging is just beautiful. But once I get it home, packaging goes right in the trash. I don't care about the packaging at that point. It's all about the toy for me.
Wow, that's a struggle that I have, and I think that's part of the addiction too. Is just there are some things like, for example, I'm a huge Thundercats fan. I mean, like
Yeah.
I've been freaking talking about Thundercats for like years before Mattel even decided to approach the toy line. But um, that's the thing now, is that I want to have like everybody one open to mess around with and one packaged, because I don't know. I just feel like the collectability of it. When my kids grow up, it's like if a toy is loose and it gets mishandled, it might get scuffed, messed up. But if it's preserved the way it was when Dad originally bought it, it's something that's meaningful to me. So I struggle with that a lot, particularly when it's nostalgic pieces that have a significant connection with my childhood. So
Yeah.
Thundercats, Motu Classics, the new Silverhawks, which have just been revealed. It's that kind of thing, and it kind of takes a play into this whole toy addiction. Like, how do we measure our limits? Like, when is enough enough? Because sometimes I find myself struggling with, okay, there's this new toy line coming out. Damn, that looks nice, but what other line can I sacrifice? Instead of
Yeah.
just piling up another line and another line, and because at the end of the day, we're adults. We have responsibilities. We have either mortgages or rents to pay, car notes. We have children to see through college,
Yeah.
and we gotta think in a sensible manner about money. And that kind of brings me into, when did you realize that toy collecting had become an issue, and how has this addiction affected your personal life, or even possibly your relationship with loved ones?
Well, I mean, I don't think I really ever thought it was an issue. My wife and everybody in my life has been very, very, very good about letting me do my thing. As long as it made me happy, and I'm not out drinking, I'm not out doing drugs, I'm not out screwing other girls, I'm not, I'm playing with toys, I'm collecting action figures and stuff, and I'm somewhat responsible with it. I'm responsible with the amount that I spend on it, but I'm not responsible with how much I actually buy and keep. That's where my problem lies. As I said, I just counted. I got rid of a lot of toys, and I was going through those toys and looking at it, going, I don't remember buying this, and I'm not sure why I bought it. Why do I have this in my collection? Why is this in this tub with some of this other stuff that I love? I'm not even sure why I ever bought this or when I bought it, but here it is. And people don't just give me stuff, so I must have bought it. And so that's part of the problem, is that when you start getting so much, it's it's a it's an issue that trying to remember what you have and why you bought it, I guess. And like I said, when we're getting ready to move, when you're moving 44 tubs of anything,
Oh
you
my God.
probably got a little bit too much. And that's
Absolutely.
44 of just what's in the basement. This is easily going to be 50 or 60 tubs full of stuff. I do have a bunch of Mezco stuff over here that's still in the boxes because I've recently been buying two of everything they release, because I'm crazy
I
about
know.
stuff.
I know.
You
I know you're a big championing that line. I know
don't
you
know
love that
why.
line.
I mean, I do know why. It's because I was a huge fan of Mezco when I was a kid. I mean, not Mezco. See,
Migo.
a huge fan of Migo, and the Mezco stuff just speaks to me in the way that Migo did. It's like I looked at a Migo figure when I was a kid, and I thought this is the pinnacle of action figures. It has the cool the cool superhero costume, and has all this great articulation and stuff. And to me now, the stuff that Mezco is doing is what I saw those Migo figures as when I was a kid. They've reached that actual pinnacle. I've got a little bit more of a discerning eye, having been in the toy industry for a couple of decades, and I see that stuff, and I'm like, I mean, I don't even know how they do some of the stuff that they do with the soft goods on that stuff. It's beautifully done. So that's kind of where I'm at with Amigo. I mean, the Mezco stuff. It's a true sickness. I'm a completist. I've never been a completist on any line. I've had a lot of. There you go.
I agree with you, man. This,
Gomez.
these Gomez's are like a pain in the nuts. Let me tell you. I got this guy locked in the pre-order. I think it was in stock when it sold. It was one of those, and FedEx completely lost my package
Oh no!
somewhere in a Pennsylvania distribution center. So this is kind of one of the things that it's like, where do you call your, draw your limits? I connected through some buddies and I ended up paying, but I had to pay. I paid $230 for this guy. What was he, $80 out the gate?
Ouch. Yeah, I think so.
So, but I got him because not only it's an awesome Gomez figure, and it's actually the first Gomez figure I ever owned, but I love the Bruce Lee jumpsuit on him, and that
Yeah.
whole like Game of Death look, man.
Yeah.
That sold me,
Yeah, that's really
And
good.
I've been kind of a cherry picker with the Mezco line because it gets expensive, man. You go from doing like a NECA figure, which are pretty amazing, to 29.99, and Mezcos are minimum $90
Yep.
each one. So
Yeah.
just today I got the Hoods vapor, and I had to get two because the mentality that I'm having now is not for customization, but
Yeah.
it's like if I miss out on an exclusive that I couldn't order, that my computer took a shit while I was
Trade
ordering.
bait.
Trade bait, bro.
Yeah.
Trade bait. So it's one of those things. So I got the vapor and he's in stock. I can't wait to get him. I think that figure is amazing. And I had totally forgotten about the 90s line when they did Hoods, because I guess back then
Yeah.
it didn't really appeal to me, but now
Right.
all these facials, the expressions on the head
Yeah.
sculpts, and like you said, the soft goods, man.
I don't know who sculpted the head on that thing like that. The vapor figure, the hood stuff is really not my cup of tea. But the sculpting on that head is incredible, beautiful.
Next level, man. Next level. It kind of reminds me of like I don't know if you've seen those from the 1/6 line. There was I think it was 3-0. They made a line called Brothers Workers, where they were like kind of like gorillas type, that cartoon looking faces, and they were like in construction gear and stuff.
Yeah,
That kind of reminds me of this.
4 of those.
Oh, okay. So you know
Some
exactly
of the
what I'm
tubs
talking
that are
about.
downstairs.
Oh my god, in the tub.
I have tubs. I have like 6 or 7 tubs at the studio right now too that I haven't brought home yet. So I'm over 50 tubs that have to get moved.
Wow.
Yeah, I just realized that a couple days ago, and I was looking around. I was going, "What have I done here? I got to get a big museum to put all the stuff up in."
Dude, if I had that many tubs,
my
wife would have left. If I had that many tubs of toys, my wife would have left me right now. She just doesn't understand, the hobby. Like for her, this is her train of thought, and we always have this back and forth with it. We don't really argue, but she doesn't see eye to eye. Her thing is like, oh, I can go and get a Louis, and it costs like $1,000. You probably spent 3 times what a Louis cost in the last 4 months, but I can use a Louis. Like every time I go, I put stuff in my Louis. I carry it. It's useful. What do your toys do? They sit on a shelf. Sometimes they sit in a tub until you want to like glance at it one day. and I get it in that aspect. The way she looks at it as a non-collector, it's interesting how people perceive things. I've had
You
adult.
know what? Those you have to tell her that like they bring you a sense of happiness that she obviously can't understand, and you
Right.
know that it brings happiness, it brings inspiration. You know that warm feeling of nostalgia for toys that you collected when you were young and you now have again. I mean, all that stuff is really important. It doesn't seem like it to some people, but it really does matter.
I think it's therapeutic. I really
Yep.
do. I think toys, at one point, I had to part ways with many a toys, man. And I probably things that I'll never be able to obtain again. But
Yep.
I did them. It was a sacrifice. And that's where it comes into where and you accept your adulthood responsibilities. They trump everything. And I was in a certain point in my life where I needed money to get to another certain point in my life, and I had to part ways with toys.
Yep.
But
Been there.
it's material. You can obtain it again. I
Yep.
mean, as long as it's affordable. But
So
I
I
go for it.
mean, like this ugly thing here. This is the scary monkey. I've
What
had
is
this since I was a baby. It's now missing its
Wow.
eyes. The hat is all chewed on. My dog got a hold of it when I was a kid, and the fingers are gone off of it. Like it's all chewed off. And it's this
Dude, that thing is creepy. It looks like something from The Conjuring.
yeah. It's an ugly thing, but I always loved it. When I was a little kid, it used to sleep in the bed with me all the time, and wherever I go, this is always in my toy room now. I mean, or my home office now. It's always here somewhere, sitting on a shelf, looking over me. And this thing, like, I should have gotten rid of this when I was a kid. My mom and dad should have gotten rid of this because, I mean, it had feet. It doesn't even have feet anymore.
Wow.
It's creepy. It's super
It
creepy.
is,
My,
man.
my
It's
wife
super
can't
creepy.
stand to look at it because it's so creepy. But it it has like little holes in it. The stuffing just kind of comes out of. Sometimes I have to keep pushing back in. But it also has like this plastic neck part here.
Uh-huh.
It's held on with a wire. Like there's a wire inside the soft body here that's
Right.
twisted and held on. But if you could feel it, there's a piece of the wire sticking out here, and it's like sharp like a razor blade. Like any normal person, it would cut them open. But I've slept with this thing since I was a little kid. I don't sleep with it now. I have
Right.
a wife to sleep with. I got other people to sleep with, but this is it's
But you
always
see, that's a perfect example.
that's
That's
an
that's an
example of
item.
the nostalgia. It'll always be here with me.
It gives you that warm feeling. You
Yeah.
remember good times from your childhood.
Yep.
It makes sense. But basically, like I said, some people are just not going to understand us because they're not collectors themselves. So it's like that outsider opinion. But have you ever faced any challenges or struggles due to your addiction? Like, let's say, you got to a point where you're buying so much stuff. I know you've been in the industry, so it's been kind of a little bit more. I don't know. I know that you're very cool in the sense that you don't like freebies and stuff like that. So it's not like you get stuff from other vendors or
Right.
other manufacturers. But
I
did you
will now.
ever?
I will admit that like when we get like a wave of figures in, we each get our own sets if we want them. And
Right.
I will hang on to them, and I will trade with collectors here and there if people are interested and they have something I want.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've known people in the industry that like go and pull stuff out of a warehouse and out of stock to use specifically for trades, and I could never do that. Like I know
Oh, wow.
we worked with a guy back at McFarlane Toys who used to go to the like the toy shows and stuff, the geek shows, and he would take all the product there and he would sell it for McFarlane, all this kind of stuff. And he had stuff that was left over at the end of the show. A lot of it he would run around to different vendors and trade it off for stuff for himself rather than bringing it back to the shop and then taking it and sell it again. And that
Oh,
stuff is
wow.
just not cool. It's not cool. You can't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's
and,
just
and
like,
I've had people that have tried to give me free stuff, and I always try to avoid that. It feels wrong to me. I mean, I have a job that allows me to buy toys, and I can use it as an excuse to my wife and tell her it's research and development.
yeah. Hey, exactly. It's part of your career, so it's different in coming from you. But like, see, for me. toy collecting is really, like you said, the nostalgic points and things like that. I'm not in the toy industry. I'd love to be, but I'm an artist, and that's one thing that I've been putting a lot more energy into lately. I used to do a lot of toy reviews, and that just it's just a dime a dozen the people doing toy reviews nowadays. So it's just something that I don't need to spend that time. I don't think it's spent wisely. I think more like this, talking to fellow collectors and friends that I've known for years in the industry and stuff, and about the toy collecting hobby is something more along my line. And of
Yeah.
course, to keep buying toys and stuff like that. Uh, Perfect example, Mythic Legions. You guys are responsible. You and the team are responsible for like the majority of my addiction. I've been,
Oh, sorry.
Motu Classics, Thundercats Classics, Silverhawks, all this Ultimates awesomeness coming from Super 7. And then on top of that, all the stuff you've done for Mattel. And then now Mythic Legions.
Yeah,
Oh my
sorry.
God. I recently joined the Cabal on Facebook and looking at all these customs and stuff,
Best
man.
best Facebook page on the internet, Mythic Legion's Cabal.
It's yeah, but it's I don't want to say it's toxic, but it's just like when I see these people's creations, I'm just like, damn, maybe I should get an extra one of those guys and like try to get a cape and this and that. And they're like, oh, you got to track down a guy that does capes or hoods, and there's like $30. Oh, this guy has custom heads. They're like 30. When all is said and done, you spend like $150 on a guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy
Well,
shit! I just got the Aether wave, and holy shit, man! Not to say anything, but you know, you guys have come a long way in terms of quality. I have a buddy of mine, Danny, which will probably be watching this, and he bought a bunch of Mythic Legions from the first wave, like when you had the
uh-huh.
Minotaurs, Vitus, and stuff. And every figure he got, dude, was a lemon. Like he couldn't get them to stand up, and I'm like,
Oh, the
trust me when I
ankles.
tell you,
The
these things.
ankles were tough on those.
I told them, trust me when I tell you, you don't want to sleep on these. These things are like QC immaculate. Like they're super tight. The quality is amazing. And I keep showing him the stuff, and he's like, "No, man, I got like six guys, and all of them were like just loosey goosey." And I'm like, "Dude, those things happen, but they've come a long way." And Arethyr, man, oh my God, those horses, and I haven't gone around to Arethyr because it was one of those things where like I have a newborn baby. She was just born a year ago. Actually, she turned one on
Yeah.
May
Keep going.
27th. And man, it's taken a long a lot of my time. So the other day my wife went to her mom's house and I found myself with some free spare time. Oh man, yeah. Dude, that box set, I was
Yeah.
hoping I could get that, but unfortunately, I couldn't do the pre-orders directly with you guys, so I got them split. I got the horror split and the Arethyr. But man, that is a beautiful piece. See, that's a
Yeah.
perfect example
It
of
really
something I
happened.
wouldn't want to open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you can get Arethyr on his own and open him and play with it, why are you going to want to, mess up that beautiful 2-pack, which is not a lot of people knew was going to even get made.
The thing is with our figures, though, with the Mythic Legion stuff, we make everything in collector-friendly packaging for the most part. There's some stuff with like the troll. Some of the box figures are a little bit tougher, but like all of our figures that are on blister cards, you can bend the top tabs up, slide that back card out, pull the figure out, play with it, put it back in its blister, put it back in put the card back in it, hang it right back on your wall as if it was never out of there. So we try to design things just because we ourselves love playing with toys. We try to design the packaging in a way that, for the most part, you can take them out of the package, play with them, and then put them right back in the package and put them back on the shelf.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you could tell it's a labor of love, and I think that's what makes the Mythic Legions line so successful and so sought after is because it's collectors creating for collectors. You guys have those sensibilities and that passion for toy collecting, so of course you're looking at things not like not to shoot anybody down, but not like a big conglomerate like Hasbro or Mattel, where they're really just looking at those projected sales numbers and what
Yeah.
have you. They're not really.
Now,
They're not like, oh, we've got to make this particular character because everybody wants it. No, it's like how will retailers uh, orders look on this character and that kind of stuff. So it's a very different landscape because you guys are creating based on demand and order up front. So it's like, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have a little bit of a buffer in terms of like overproducing a little bit over what is actually ordered, and that's how you have the ISS and some stuff left over for cons and stuff. But I'm sure it's a very small margin in comparison to, really shooting for those production numbers based on those initial pre-orders.
Yeah, I mean, we're a small company. It's literally me, Jim, and Eric. And then in the studio, we have, 3 to 4 full employees in there full time or part time or whatever. And then we have some satellite, sculptors and stuff all over the place, all over the United States, all over the world. Actually, we have sculptors in other countries now, and in Hawaii. But we're a small company, so for us to be able to over order a whole lot and then have the warehouse space to store it in and ship all that stuff out and continue to pay for storage while we've still got other product coming in. I mean, we just don't have the capacity to do that. So what we're doing now is we're getting ready to launch what we call an evergreen Legion Builders pre-order. What that
Yes,
is
sir.
we have these characters in Mythic Legions called Legion Builders, and they're essentially the same as any other Mythic Legions figure, except they have less paint applications. They have a very minimal, like the Silver Knight, it was silver, and it had maybe a few splashes of black or something here or there, and that's it. And we were able to sell it at much cheaper than the standard figure. The standard figure runs at $35 right now. The Legion Builders, the ones with the less paint, the ones that are cheap, they're the same kind of figure. They have less paint. They run cheaper at around $22 right now. They might jump up a little bit when we start doing the evergreens. But whenever we put Legion Builders up, they sell out like that. They're just gone. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a pre-order on that, and then we're going to take the numbers that we got from that pre-order, and we're going to over-order the crap out of those, and have a specific place in the warehouse set up just for Legion Builders. And when we start getting low on the stock of those, we'll reorder them, bring more in. So we're calling them evergreen because we plan to have those in-store horsemen, all the time, the Legion Builders. And that way, fans have a cheaper way of being able to collect those figures and customize them if they'd like. Because the customization on Mythic Legions figures has become just astronomically more important than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's like taken off. We built them so they are modular. You have to heat some joints up with a blow dryer or hot water or something to pop them apart. But essentially, nearly every joint on those figures will pop apart, and you can rebuild them, mix and match them. They're made so they take paint easily if you want to paint them yourself. And a lot of people are sculpting their own armor pieces and weaponry and heads, like you mentioned earlier. And the customization aspect from fans out there has been amazing, unbelievable. So that's become a very important part of it. And I think, giving fans more access to the figures that they can use for customization, we think has become very important, because we had planned on doing that this past year, but because of the pandemic and our factory getting completely shut down and screwed up, we had to back that up and wait a year. And we thought, you know what? Let's let fans choose which of the Legion Builders we're going to release first. Let's let fans do pre-orders so they're guaranteed to get them. Even if we say we're going to order tens of thousands of these and they're going to be in our warehouse, even if they sell really fast, they got a chance to pre-order them now, so they're going to get them. And then later on, we'll have extras still in the warehouse to keep there. And hopefully we'll be able to just keep replenishing that stock and keep reselling those for the people who want them for customization.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys have come a long way. And talking about that, when are you going to be announcing the winners of the poll for the Evergreen line?
I think it's going to be not this week, but I think next week we're going to be announcing that.
That's awesome, man. I'm for one, I'm really hoping you guys do the goblins on the first run, because the goblins is just, you could do so much with them, man. There's just the characteristic of it, the
Yeah.
scale. Um, there's just so much range and so much possibility, especially now with the expansion feet and hand packs. Some
Yeah.
people figured out that they clip onto the goblins, so now you can have barefoot goblins running around, and I think that's really cool. I can't wait to mess around with that aspect, and also with, like I mentioned before, you guys keep pushing the envelope, because with Ilithia, the Ilithia wave, you're introducing more of like the loincloth and the fur, like what you did with Baron Voligar, man. That
Yeah.
shit looks batshit insane.
We've wanted
And
to do that for a long time.
yeah,
Obviously, the capes that we've done up until now have been very basic, and we've recently, in the past year and a half, 2 years, started working with a soft goods company up in Canada. This guy is Christian Balyut, I think is the way you pronounce his last name, Balyut. So I think it's Christian Balyut, but it's a company called CJESM, CJES.
oh yeah, see Jessam, of course.
They have done some amazing soft goods stuff over the years, just like customizing it and selling it to collectors. And they've done some work for other companies. And we saw their work as like, we got to get these guys in here doing Mythic Legions. The stuff they do is just stunning. It's beautiful work. And so we didn't have Mythic Legion stuff ready to go, but we started using them to help us with some of the stuff for Disney, for Super 7, like the Disney stuff and some other things for Super 7. And then we finally got a point with the Ilithia wave that you just mentioned, where we could have CJSM come in and just take off with it. And just wait till you see that stuff in person. As good as it looked in photos,
Oh man,
stunning. I'm really excited to see how our factories pull this off, because as far as producing figures and stuff, they've done amazing. And with like the fur loincloths and stuff for the trolls, they've done amazing. I'm really looking forward to how they pull off the soft goods for the Ilithia wave. I'm sure they're going to do spectacular with it, though.
dude. Every time these figures come out, like it's nothing compared to what you see initially when you actually had this thing in hand. Like when I was playing with Vorthog, I did a quickie video review on my Instagram the other day, and I was playing with Vorthog, and just the quality, the fact that the hands are like gummy rubber but not too soft,
Yeah.
they have like that good grip on the weapons and stuff. It's just amazing, man. The level of detail and quality on these things. And
a lot of that goes to Chris Gorich. He's our production manager. He goes back and forth with the factories and gets all that stuff right. And we hired him on. He's been doing work for us for a while. Way back when we were doing Gothatropolis stuff, he would go back and forth with the factories for us and kind of make sure that stuff's right. But now he's actually part of the studio, and he's hands-on with all that stuff. And we understand that some of the hands on the figures earlier on were like really hard, really tough, and hard to get the weapons into. And one of the things that he strives for is finding those little issues and making them right and fixing them and changing them. And those a little bit more rubbery, but not too rubbery hands that flex a little bit more so you can get the weapons into them. I mean, that comes from him just paying attention to what fans are saying and paying attention to what is right and wrong with the figures and striving to fix it. All the credit goes to him for that.
That's awesome. Kudos to him. And it's like a lot of people, with you, because you're kind of like the face of the Horsemen. You're more like the public figure.
You're face to have, but I guess it's better than that big skull face for our logo, right?
Yeah, but it's funny because some people that don't know, they'll be like, oh, Cornboy, but it's a big well-oiled machine. You've got a lot of people. You've got Nate that does control art for you guys. You got like you just mentioned, what's his name?
Chris.
The one, Chris.
George, yeah.
He does the quality stuff, like
for Mancuso, Sherry, like the people who work in our studio. Like I was starting to mention, Sherry Cook, and then Cameron Smith. Those, they are the backbone of the company. I'm literally the least talented person in the whole company. I just got a big mouth. That's it.
Yeah, the public figure. That's what I'm saying.
I
But you
like
know,
to surround myself with people that are far more talented than I am, and they make me look good. Because yeah, I don't get any of the credit for any of that good stuff.
Eric's got really talented hands. He does some
Eric's
amazing sculpt
unbelievable.
work, man. I that another thing that I wanted to mention. You were talking about the Evergreen line, that new deluxe, um, the deluxe Legion Builder line that just launched recently.
Yeah.
Man, that was insane. I think that's the biggest dip I've taken on an advanced pre-order directly with you guys. Like I
Wow.
pre-ordered, I think like 3 or 4 of each guy, man, because it was just like,
Wow.
dude. Because like the skeletons, I'm thinking about things that I can do with the skeletons and customization and repainting, and that's what I'm gonna start doing. Like I'm gonna start customizing some stuff and doing unique
Don't
iterations
do
of
it.
characters.
Don't do
I,
it. Don't do it. It's a slippery slope.
I,
It'd be even
man,
worse than it is now.
I already took the first step. I'm
Oh
screwed,
no.
man. I
Yeah.
got Aerithir, and like already I bought backdrops from Crashbox Customs. And, dude, I'm
Uh,
in deep, man.
Crash
I'm
Talk
in
does
deep.
some amazing stuff.
Dude, I already put up like 2 of those. I managed to put them in my curio. They're not exactly made for the Tolf, but I managed to rig the shelves in a way that I was able to jimmy them in there, and they look so amazing with
Mm.
like my Magnus standing in front of that cathedral type window. Oh my god, dude, it's just the potential for that line is just
But you're
insane.
wrong about Magnus. Magnus doesn't stand in front of a cathedral window. The cathedral window stands behind Magnus.
That's right. Yeah, there you
Everything
go.
stands behind Magnus.
Everything. Magnus is like the Chuck Norris of the Mythic
Yeah.
Legions. It's crazy. It's like who's Attila Leoser?
Yeah.
Forget about
Right.
him. It's Magnus is the man. And you know the cool thing about Magnus, what I connect to the most with Magnus is that he looks a lot like Fisto from Motu
Yes.
Classics. So I've always loved the Fisto figure and the character himself. So I think he just looks badass. You know, it
Yeah.
just that beard and that stern look. Of course, you got a lot more paint hits on him because the Mythic Legions has a lot more detail than retail lines have, you know. And
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to segue into, because you're in the toy industry, and I think you're the perfect person to talk about this. One thing that I've noticed going into COVID, COVID has had negative and positive, um, impacts on people.
Yeah.
Some people have lost jobs. Some people have unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
Some people have flourished. You know, I, for one, was able to obtain a second job, and because of the remote working aspect,
Wow.
now I've inhabited an IT job and I'm working in IT, and I've been able to, make more money and be able to buy more toys. Then you've got, the stimulus checks and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And what I've seen as a collector is that I've seen in the last 12 months more action figures produced than I have seen in the last 5 years. It's
It's crazy.
insane, dude. Like, how has that been able to come about? Because Marvel, for example, Hasbro seems to have a pre-order every other day
Yeah.
of the week. When I remember, they would only reveal stuff during Toy Fair, and none of it was for sale.
Yeah.
And then Comic-Con, and none of it was for sale except for the exclusives. But now, dude, between G.I. Joe, between Black Series, between Legends, then you guys have launched, well, you had the Alithia wave earlier on, you had the deluxe builders, and I think you have another pre-order coming up in November, right? For the big con.
Yes, we do.
So it's like insane, because a collector like me that has so much range, that is not a niche collector, because you have those niche collectors where it's like, all I collect is Creature from the Black Lagoon. Don't talk to me about anything else. That's what I collect.
Yeah.
But when you have people like me, that I'm a freaking rabid toy addict, it's like, holy shit. Like,
Plus,
what
you mentioned our pre-order coming up in November. Between now and the pre-order coming up in November, we also have Cosmic Legions launching. So
you see what I'm telling you, man? It's like, when does our bank account get a break?
well, see,
And
that's the thing. Like you were talking about the expense of Mezco figures. That I'm fortunate because that's really the only thing I'm avidly collecting right now. Now I'm a completist now, and I've never been an actual completist on any line ever. But the Mezco 112 Collective, I've become a completist on, and that's the only thing I really collect. Every once in a while, I'll pick up some Marvel Legends stuff, but it's really only because I look at it and I go, can I customize that into a into a Mezco 112 Collective style
Oh,
figure?
wow.
And that's why I'm collecting those. So, I mean, yes, it's an expensive line, but I'm not really spending much money on anything else right now. So it's, it's okay.
Yeah. You see, that's with me, it's completely different. I got Mythic Legions. I got, oh man, I don't even know. I think I have like three of each of every Thundercats Ultimates coming. I pre-ordered two Thunder Tanks because I'm
Two.
like, two, dude. I got two
Well,
Thunder Tanks.
you know what's going to happen is you're going to open the one and you're going to play with it, and everybody else is going to start doing that too, and they're going to realize how awesome it is. They're going to start posting videos about how awesome it is. Then everybody else who didn't order it, who's into Thundercats, are going to want it, and you're going to have a little gold mine on your hands there with that second one.
Yeah, that's my wife and I are in the market for purchasing a home, so those are the kind of things that I'm looking at, in the sense of, because that's one thing I wanted to mention, and I know you've made it very clear that you don't really sell stuff. You tend to do more of a trade situation, but
Yeah.
for me, I've sold a lot of things and I've made crazy profit, but I'm not the kind of guy that goes and posts up at 3 or 4 targets and clears their shelves and then just posts things up for 10 times the price. I don't do that. I sell things to feed the habit.
Yeah, I used to go to like Targets. There was a point where I lived in the center of, I think it was like 3 or 4 Walmarts and 3 or 4 Targets, and then there were also Toys R Us was around then, and KB Toys. So I would spend a Saturday morning. I'd get up early Saturday morning. I'd hit every one of those, and it wasn't so I could collect stuff that I could then try to sell off or scalp. It was just stuff for me. And I think that might be why I had stuff in my bins downstairs that I didn't even realize that I had, or why I had it, because I was just like, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna grab that. And
man.
Look at it and then just toss it in a bin, never think about it again.
Are there any toy lines that you have particularly never been attracted to? For example, I know it's a big part of our childhood, like the 5 POA lines and stuff like that, but it doesn't do anything for me, I guess, because what the joy that I get out of toy collecting is creating that world, posing my characters in these dynamic ways. If you look at some of my toy reviews back a couple of years back, I used to go to town on my toy photography in the videos, and I would like to create these types of scenes, like you would, like a recreation of a movie scene or recreation of a comic book panel. And I think for me, articulation is key. And I don't know, that 5 POA stuff, while it is nostalgic and it looks nice on a card, I honestly, like, for example, the reactions, I only have the Thundercats ones because of how big of a Thundercat fan I am.
That's exactly my thing with that 5 POA stuff. Like Hasbro's releasing the little Marvel ones now.
Yeah.
And they look beautiful. Like for that 5 POA stuff, they're doing a killer job on it. And the packaging looks amazing. But I'm only picking up the Fantastic Four ones because I'm a Fantastic Four fan. And you know what? As nice as the card looks, I just tear them right out of the package.
Right. So the packaging is irrelevant for you.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you.
I love looking at it, and it catches my eye in the store, and I get that sense of wonder that I had when I was a kid. I'd turn the aisle at a Kmart, and down the aisle I would see one of those cards of a line that I was really, the characters that I liked or whatever, and I'd make a beeline to it, and there it was, one that I had been looking for a long time. And I still get that sense of nostalgia from looking at the packaging design, but it still goes right in the garbage after I get home.
You mentioned that you get the Mythic Legions figures. Of course, you're creating them, so it only makes sense that you can get those. But you guys are also responsible for all the Ultimate stuff, and don't you have those in your collection?
No. Back when we were working with Mattel on the Masters of the Universe line and on the DC Universe Classics line, they used to send us 6 of everything that we worked on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so there was a lot at the studio, and I brought a lot of that home. And oh, hang on, let me. Okay, that's good. I brought a lot of that home, and like one of each. And after a while, I looked at it, and I was like, why did I? I mean, I really like the DC stuff, but what am I going to do with all this stuff? What am I going to do with all the Masters Universe figures? I love them, and I loved creating them, and I think they're really great figures. But I was never a huge Masters of the Universe fan when I was a kid. It just started in the '80s, and I was kind of like a teen into cars and girls at that point. I
Yeah.
really started to enjoy them when I had my first kid, and he was going back picking them up at garage sales and stuff. And then I was kind of like found a new love for them. But so I had all that stuff, and I thought, man, why do I have all this stuff? I don't really need all this stuff. And I actually have 2 tubs of Masters of the Universe Classics figures downstairs that I've been meaning to put up for trades or whatever, and
Oh,
I just
wow.
haven't had the time to.
Wow.
But that stuff to me is like, it's there, and we made it, and it's awesome. And I probably should be keeping one of everything just for posterity, just to say, look, I worked on this. And I had
Yeah.
to do with this, but you know what? The internet's there. I can go up and look up pictures and point. Hey, look, we did that. I don't
Yeah.
really need that stuff anymore.
It's funny because on the other hand, for me, it's like I have to own everything Four Horsemen have
Yeah,
their footprint on because it's just so amazing, from DC
yeah.
classics to Motu classics and now all the ultimate stuff, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The stuff that we work on for both Mattel and Super 7, I mean, if we called them, hey, could you send this stuff to us? They would do it in a heartbeat. They wouldn't even, when Scott Knightlick was at Mattel, he was having all that stuff sent to us that we did. But now nobody's really doing that for us. But we've realized we don't really need all that stuff. It just gets in the way. We've got the prototypes there. We've got STLs. If we really want to, we can print one out and paint it up and put it on our shelf. It may not be the actual toy, but it's a little prototype or whatever. We just don't need that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Physically sent to us. I mean, it's really appreciated. It's really cool when they do that stuff. But a lot of people are like, "What? They don't automatically just send you stuff for free?" No, they don't. I mean, that's totally cool. We, like I said, if we wanted it, if we were really dying for it, we could ask for it and say, "Hey, could you send that to us?" None of them would say, "Nah, we can't send you those." They'd say, "Yeah, sure," and they'd send them right to us. But we don't really do that anymore.
So I think every one of us toy collectors has, I guess, what we would call a grail piece, but I'm aiming more at like a sheen piece. So is there a piece in your collection that you can actually say, holy shit, I did some crazy shit to obtain this figure, or you know I forfeited on the light bill one month to buy this toy or something. Do you have a piece in your collection that would fall under that category?
Well, yes and no. Not anymore. I did, but it wasn't really. Yeah, I guess it was somewhat shame. I was really into the 3A stuff by Ashley Wood, the
Oh, those tank looking guys.
World
Yeah.
War robots and all that kind of stuff. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and whenever they would release anything that was medic related, anything that was like the Reds, the big Russian looking guys, anything that they called MG, which was short for emergency, they were yellow and all that stuff. Just I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I was collecting it. I wasn't a completist, but there was a lot of stuff that I really liked, and I got my hands, or I had a bunch of I forget what it was, but I had a bunch of 3A figures that somebody was really into and they wanted. And 3A had released this one figure called I think she was affectionately known as the Cupcake Tomorrow Queen, but I don't know if that was her official name. She was
Mhm.
this tall female figure, really skinny. She was a 1/6 scale, really thin, but she had this like skin tight pleather hot pink outfit. I don't know why, but I wanted that thing bad. It was just beautiful. And I had some other of the Tomorrow Queens, and she would just look great on the shelf next to those. So I was friends with Ashley Wood, and I don't like try to get things out of other toy designers, but I knew this thing was going to be hard to get because it was going to be a Chinese convention exclusive. And I was friends with Ashley. I was talking to him, and he was like, we're going to make quite a few of them, and when we do, I'll make sure that I set one aside for you, and you can just buy it directly from us. I was like, awesome. I won't have to try to get a mule to go to this convention in China for me. I won't have to try to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the internet. Just so happened that there was some sort of production error in the creation of that new pleather suit they were making, and they only produced 26 of them. There was supposed to be like 100 of them. So there was no way he was going to be able to get one of those, put it aside so I could buy it directly from the company. They just didn't have enough. So I was bummed, but I was like, oh, well, that's, the one that got away. Big deal. So I had a bunch of these 3A robot figures that some guy really wanted, and he had one of those Tomorrow Queen figures. Oh, and I traded a bunch of stuff. It was probably a few $100s worth of stuff to this guy. And I hated to get rid of it. Some of it was stuff that I really liked, but I wanted that one figure really badly. So I was a little bit ashamed of trading all that stuff off for that one. Like any other person that wasn't a collector, wasn't a toy collector, and even some toy collectors would see me buying that thing and think it was ridiculous. It was like a Barbie doll. Like, it was super bright pink. It was ridiculous looking.
You don't have it anymore?
As Brian would say, it was preposterous.
But you don't have it anymore in your collection?
Do I have it anymore? That's the next part of the story.
Oh.
So I had it for a couple years. And when I got it, I traded all this stuff off. I got it. And it was strange because the head was backwards in the package. And it really took nothing more than popping the top off of it and turning it around. But it was this clear package. It was clear on all sides, so you could see it from, as plastic from all views. But rather than turning it around, Ashley Wood signed it at the show, and he just signed it on the back, help. Like, oh no, my head's turned around, help. And so the guy never turned the head around in the package.
Oh,
well, you know me, I'm an opener. I don't give a crap about that package. Even if it did have Ashley Wood's signature on it, I don't care about that. I pulled her out. I had her on the shelf. She was beautiful. And I had her for a couple years. I loved it. She was standing right next to my other Tomorrow Queens. One had like a red pleather outfit. One had white. One had black. And I loved it. And then one day, I was poor. My Jeep broke down. Needed to get my Jeep fixed. Needed to drop a new engine in it. Needed a few $100s. Didn't have it. And said, I guess maybe I can try to sell this thing. So I went on a message board and said, it was a message board specifically for buying, selling, trading that stuff. Said, hey, does anybody have any idea what the value of this thing is? I still had the plastic package, so if anybody wanted it, I could put it right back in there and it looked brand new. And I let them know that it was open and, does anybody have any value on this? And somebody said, I wouldn't take less than $2,500 for it. I was like, what? I traded off $400 worth of stuff for this 2 years ago. That can't be right. Wow. And then I had a guy message me about a half hour later, private message me. He said, I'll give you $3,000 cash for it right now. I'm over in New York City. I can meet you at the Willowbrook Mall near where you're at. And I was, no way. And I felt bad because this was a community where, everybody was upfront about everything. If you put stuff on eBay and you're part of this community, you put stuff on eBay before offering it to people there, you were shunned. Like they hated you for that. And I kind of understand it because of the type of community that it was. And so I told the guy, I said, listen, I can't really just sell that to you outright. I have to put it up on the site. But what I'll do is when I decide to put it up there, I'll set a price for it and I will let you know. I'll text you, let you know when I'm going to put it up there so you can jump on as quickly as possible and hopefully be the first person and come through and buy it. Nothing from him. Half hour went by and I was going to go ahead and post it the next day. Half hour went by. The guy texted me back again. He said, all right, I have $4,000 cash and I'll bring it up to you at the Willowbrook Mall. I'll meet you there tonight. And I felt bad, but how you would be stupid to turn.
Yeah, how can you turn that down?
For a hunk of plastic that I only paid $100 for. Didn't even really pay a few $100. I traded some stuff that I had that was probably worth a few $100s at that time. I probably paid much less than that for it originally. So I did it. I met him at the Willowbrook Mall. I knew, like, we're going to meet somebody at the Willowbrook Mall. They're going to come there and they're going to gut me just to take my doll. They're going to come and get my pink dolly and they're going to leave me laying in a pool of blood out in the parking lot.
Oh,
So I said, let's meet inside the mall. And I told him which end to meet us at, but we went in the other side of the mall so he wouldn't just meet us in the parking lot. We entered in the other side. We met him at the other end of the mall. And this guy walked in, and I am not kidding you in that I'm surprised that guy had $20 to pay for a figure the way he was dressed. I don't like to judge people. That guy was shabby. Like, he was rough looking, and he had a friend with him. He brought the cash up to me in a brown paper bag. Like, he had a brown paper bag, and it was full. And I was like, I got to check this. And I was looking at it. It was real. It was $4,000 in a brown paper bag that he brought to me for this little plastic doll. And I sold it.
What the fuck?
I got the parts that I needed for my Jeep, got my Jeep.
And then some.
My wife and I went to Hawaii.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah. So,
but you see, that's not a shame piece.
it started out as a shame piece.
That's a victory piece.
Yeah, at the end, it was a major victory. But yeah, it started out as a shame piece. I couldn't believe that I was trading off hundreds of dollars worth of figures for this one pink dolly. But then I ended up selling that pink dolly for $4,000, getting my car fixed, and taking a trip to Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty
insane,
cool.
Dude. But you know, one of the and you never know what walks of life people are on. There's some people that don't like to show off their worth.
Yes.
So they tend to dress down.
I mean, if a guy can fork out $4,000 for one figure, the guy definitely has cash or knows how to get it quickly. And he's one of those people who just doesn't care about showing it off and flashing it. You know, he has the ability to get it, and that's fine. But man, when I saw him, I was like, I'm glad I didn't meet this guy in the parking lot, because I would be afraid that I would have gotten, a bullet to the head or something. But
wow, dude,
it was an honest transaction.
That's
Couldn't
insane.
Couldn't believe it. I felt bad for the other members in that group, but I would have been stupid to turn that down and say, "Nah, guy, let's just do this the right way." That would have been stupid of me to do. So
Did Karina encourage you to dig in those bins and look up some other stuff?
No, if I've got something that's I don't really have anything that's like worth tons and tons of money. Probably the most expensive figures I have right now are the figures that she bought me. I've got big robots on the shelf up here that are from a video game. They're like 2.5 foot tall robots that I think they were like $600 or $700, $800 a piece.
Holy shit!
But those were Christmas presents,
Those are like the 3-0 ones, right? 3 zeros.
Yeah, they are 3-0. They're 3-0 Titanfall figures.
Yes, Titanfall.
They're 1/12 scale. They each come with like a little military guy. Let me grab one of the military guys. I'm not grabbing one of the big robots down, but
yeah,
come with this super cool, detailed little military guy that all go in the.
Oh wow, yeah.
They're like super detailed, as 3-0 and 3A do.
Yeah.
They all fit in the cockpits and everything, and it all lights up and stuff. It's articulated beautifully. They stand really solidly, which is important, because if one of those fell over, it would be havoc.
That's insane, man.
Yeah. So that's really probably the most expensive, other than my Mego Fantastic Four figures, which are my pride and joy.
The originals, do you have them carded or open?
In the boxes. Like, they had them on cards, and they had them in these long rectangular boxes.
Yeah.
And I got them in the boxes. That was the first thing that I bought with my first paycheck in the toy industry.
Oh, wow.
Found those Mego figures, because I had seen them at a big flea market a couple years before, and I was just dying to get them. I was like, man, that's my holy grail right there. And I was never able to get them. And then with my first check, I found them online and went ahead and grabbed them.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's crazy how all these toys in our collections, if you look at them, they all have some sort of story behind them. They all have something that you can remember, a specific moment, either how you obtained it or why you bought that figure.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed also, and I don't know if it's because of the pandemic, but now it seems like a lot of companies like Super 7 and you guys kind of started the trend. You're starting to do this more made to order model
Hmm.
versus, relying on retail interest, because it's one thing I've always told people on the boards and stuff that they complain about. Why isn't this at retail? Back then, when Motu Classics was Matty Collector, and you had to subscribe and all that, is
Yeah.
that retailers, they're not collectors. They just look at what's in the media, if kids are going to be interested in it. And in my personal opinion, a lot of people may argue, I think toys has evolved into more of an adult thing than a child thing. I think children, unless it's children of collectors, are not really gravitating towards collecting toys or playing with toys. They're more into like electronic gadgets, card
Yes.
games. And it's kind of sad in a way, because I wonder if there's going to be a future where toys is just not going to be something that is an interest to children, you know? But
I I think that like traditional toy playing is starting to come back a little bit with kids, and I think we saw a lot of that during this pandemic. Kids are, of course, kids are on their iPads or on console video games or computers or whatever a lot. But I think a lot of parents saw really how much they're on there during this pandemic. So I think more traditional toy playing is coming back a little bit. And I think the kids who have experienced that through the pandemic and everybody being at home and all being one unit, I think it's going to help bring that back a little bit. I hope that sticks with those kids a little bit. I have seen, more and more kids that are into action figures and standard toys rather than, digital toys. So
yeah,
fingers crossed. I don't,
it's
it,
a
you
good
know, I don't think
observation.
it's going to ever come back as big as it has been, but
Yeah.
at least come back somewhat.
Well, and now not having Toys R Us, you don't have an actual brick and mortar that's dedicated to just toys,
Yeah.
unless you live out in Canada. We don't have KB anymore. We don't have Toys R Us. All we have is that poorly stocked aisle at Walmart or Target, or
Yes.
our online. It's really like our computer's our best friend now for
It
collectors.
really is.
You pre-order your shit and you're guaranteed it, unless it's one of these Mezco crazy one-offs.
Yeah.
You know,
Sometimes our computers are our worst enemy because of stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's like we're putting money into make sure we got the craziest, best internet to make sure we can get those pre-orders in,
Yep.
you know. But the one
I
thing
was
that I was,
actually in a meeting about the upcoming um, waves and stuff with Super 7 earlier today when that Hoods figure went on sale. I completely missed it. I
oh
was so bummed out. And then a couple hours later, somebody texted me and said, "Did you get that?" And I was like, "No." And they said, "Mezco just reopened it." I was like, "Oh!" And I jumped on there and got it. So
yeah, it said that they were filling wait lists. Like within the first 10 minutes, I was checking out, man. I
yeah,
was like, I was basically logged in
yeah.
at
For some reason,
12:50.
I was in the middle of that meeting and I completely forgot it because I could do it really easily on my phone while I'm in the meeting. I just spaced it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You were able to, grab that figure. But like you said, there's some figures that, that one little window, you never know what
Yeah,
could be happening, something personal in your life. You can't be on the phone, you can't be on a computer, and boom, it's gone.
yeah,
And then it's like triple the price on secondary market, you
yeah.
know?
See, that's another problem with being a toy addict is that you know that if you miss that figure, there's a good chance you're going to be paying 3 times the retail price for it later on. So
And that's what my wife doesn't understand. She's like, why the fuck do you have to have it now?
yeah,
And it's like, let me show you these eBay sold listings, honey. You
yeah,
see that figure right there? That was $25 3 years ago. Now
yeah,
it's $150.
yep,
It's like, oh, but why do you guys spend so much money on crap? I'm like, it's not crap. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And
yeah,
it's just it's like you can't understand it unless you're talking to a fellow collector or someone that enjoys the hobby. But
yep,
what I was talking about, the whole COVID and the pandemic and stuff, is that, like I said, it has brought upon this new monster, which is, I don't want to say it's a monster, but it's this whole evolution of going into that made to order model.
hmm,
And what I love about it is that while Hasbro has done it with their HasLab and stuff like that, you've got companies like Super 7, for example, that are going after my heart hard, man. They got Thundercats Ultimates. Now they've got Silverhawks Ultimates. They got a Hush Hush project revealing in July, which I have no idea what it could be. But the whole thing is that there are no boundaries because it's a made to order model. They're making things the way we could have never imagined they would have been made. So, for example, going back to Motu Classics when Scott was running the game and you guys were doing everything, there was limits. There was tooling costs. There was budgets. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you would say, oh, I can have this figure, but if he has an alternate head, I don't have the budget to pack him in with this figure. You'll have to
yeah,
be packed in with such and such random guy next year. And now with these ultimates, man, look at this Monstar. This thing is, the images of it online don't do any injustice because they show it. It's like a digital model, a digital render, but it looks like it's the same size as the other guys. He's 11 inches tall.
yeah,
He's a monster,
yes,
and he has alternate heads, and the ever living Mumra that's coming out, hopefully sometime this year. I'm just can't wait to get it. That thing is going to be humongous. It's going to
yeah,
be the way Mumra the ever living should have been.
yeah,
I honestly can tell you, I don't think if Mattel was still doing Matty Collector, I don't think their Mumra ever living would have been the scale or would have had the features that Super 7 is going to give it.
yeah.
Because
Maybe not, unless it was like some sort of a special deluxe release or something. Yeah, I'm not sure that they would have tackled that either.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but Scott's got a YouTube channel and he shared like stuff like he had the 2016 plan for Motok Classics if it wouldn't have, sunsetted. And he
Yeah.
also showed a glimpse of what Thundercats would have been. They had plans to do Cat Slayer and everything.
Oh yeah,
So, looking at that, it really gives you an idea. Oh, wow, Mattel was really going to go balls deep with that line
yeah,
and kind of do a Motok Classics rendition with
yeah,
Thundercats. But yeah, it's just what I'm saying is this made to order model is kind of setting a bar where there are no limits anymore. You've got three guys in the line that are 55, but then here you got Monstar, the way you want him to be. He's 85 bones, but he's getting made.
yeah.
There's probably going to be a lot
Comes
less
with a lot of
Monstar out there.
cool accessories too.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be a lot less Monstar out there when all is said and done.
Yeah,
But if you want Monstar the way you envision him watching
Yeah.
those cartoons back in the day, you're going to have him. Where
Yeah.
it's something that I don't think, looking back 5 years ago, I don't think that would be a possibility in the toy industry.
Well, no, probably not. But you kind of can't take Super 7 as an example about the way other companies do things, because they do things very out of the box. Like Brian is a madman. Like some of the licenses they've decided to do and the way they're releasing them, and crazy, but it's working for him. He's a genius madman the way he's doing things.
Yeah.
So hats off to him.
Yeah,
I love somebody who's willing to take a risk, and he's definitely more than willing to take risks, and they're paying off really well for him. So
it'd be great for you guys, the Horsemen, to probably take a little leap of faith and kind of go. I know people have been hoping and preaching for a dragon for the Mythic Legions line. And I honestly think that you're at that point where you would get the monetary support if you do something like a HasLab standalone for a dragon or something like that. I think you guys can get the support to get a decent number of production and get a behemoth of a toy out there for collecting.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, with the dragon we've always talked about doing, we keep saying the 3-foot tall dragon. That's our dream come true. And I mean, we're very trepidatious about everything we do because, like I said, we're a small company. So if we make a big giant monstrosity like that and then it fails, that'll just, not only will it be rough financially for the company, it'll be heartbreaking to us as fans that we're not be able to create that and get it out there. But I think we've gotten to a point now that the fans are rabid enough for Mythic Legions and they're loyal enough and they want so much Mythic Legion stuff that if we did do a dragon, I think that it would go over pretty easily now. I don't think we would have an issue. Our biggest issue with the dragon is the shipping and the shipping charges.
Yeah.
We're not a Mattel, we're not a Super 7 even, we're not a Hasbro. So shipping gigantic items like that it's a little tougher for us. I mean, as a lot of people have seen, especially in foreign countries, some of the shipping costs for us have skyrocketed because we can't make those big deals with like FedEx or USPS that big companies like Hasbro and Mattel can. We're just not able to make those kind of deals. So our costs are what they are as far as shipping goes. Whatever is FedEx or whatever says it is, that's just what it is, and we can't do anything about it. So us shipping a giant dragon box across the United States would be tough enough, and
Yeah.
be tough enough as far as the expense of it. Trying to ship that thing over to overseas to Europe or
Oh,
somewhere,
dude.
it would be tough right now for us.
But
But
there's
I
these
think we
companies
can do
like
it.
partially that give.
Yeah, I think we can do it. We're getting some distribution partners in other parts of the world right now that'll definitely help out with that. Like we can have things shipped directly from the factory to them instead of from the factory to the United States and then to them or then to customers. So we're starting to work things out where hopefully that'll be a lot easier to do and things will be a lot more affordable as far as shipping goes. So maybe that won't be as big a concern in doing a dragon
Yeah,
or some
that's
other big giant monstrosity.
dude. That's awesome. I mean, it's just the sky's the limit with that line, and the fact that it's not like a pre-existing IP. It's something that you guys created out of nowhere. Of course, there's inspiration drawn from
Yeah,
existing IPs like Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, but
yeah,
the fact that you have this IP brand that you guys created, and it's just as hot as a Marvel brand or you know as a Star Wars brand, to be
I
honest.
don't know if I would say that. I mean, it's really taken off for us, and it's really, it's doing. I mean, it's caught fire, and it's doing a lot better than we've ever expected it to do. It's nowhere near Marvel or Star Wars, but I mean, thank you for the compliment, but
I
it's
I
nowhere
see
near
I
there. But
see
it
it that
seems to
in
be.
that way. I think with the right exposure, it could be.
Yeah,
Like if you were
I've never.
retail.
Like, I've been a collector since for my whole life essentially, and I have never seen fan reaction to to anything like I have Mythic Legions. Like fans take more pictures and do much more customizing and talk about it a lot more as if it's like something more personal to them than any other toy line I've ever seen. And I mean that to me, that alone to me is important. Like fans have really connected with this toy line in a way that they've not connected with any other toy lines. That's something special. Even if it never gets as big as Marvel, I mean, as any Marvel properties or Star Wars or something like that. Just the fact that it's connected with fans on a level that we've never expected. Fans seem to love it as much as or more than we do. That's more important than anything to us.
I think the fact that you can actually create your characters, and the fact that you guys came into this line introducing it as something that was customizer friendly, where everything, like you said, breaks apart into pieces.
Yeah,
It's like an adult action figure Lego, man.
yeah,
Like people can go to town and just make these unique pieces. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I
Well,
think
we
that's
promoted it as a line that would like, and that it was modular, that you take it apart and like take other parts from these other Mythic Legions figures and kind of build your own. But
yeah,
it took a life of its own, and it's like people like we said, like the customization aspect of it has taken off far more than we ever expected. We just thought people were going to be swapping parts and making different color combinations and stuff. We had
yeah.
no idea that that portion of it was going to get as big as it has. Speaking of which, Legions Con is coming up in November, and it's very much based around the collector community and the customizers in that community. So, I mean, there's a whole convention that's going to be based around. They did it last year and the year before, but now it's going to be bigger than ever this year. And it's crazy how much that part of the fandom has grown for this thing.
Yeah, man. I miss conventions. I haven't been to a show since I think like Comic Con in 2018 or something like that. And I miss, meeting up with you and Randy from NECA and stuff, like
Yeah,
talking shop. It's just something that I miss and I want to get back to. Hopefully we go into back to a new normal, and we
yeah,
can get out there. I know it's trickling little by little. There's shows and cons, and I'd love to get out to the West Coast to PowerCon sometime.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, it's an exciting time to be a collector. It's but it's also a scary time. in terms of like budgeting and
Yes.
figuring out how you can afford to maintain the hobby,
I
you know?
think 10, 20 years from now, people are going to look back on this particular time period, like this few years in here, and they're going to see it as a golden age of collecting. I mean, obviously the 80s was huge, you know, with Transformers, Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, all that stuff from the 80s. But the stuff now that's being released, it's all that and more. And it's like you are spoiled with the amount of choices that you have as a collector with what you want to collect now. It's
Yeah,
never been like this.
it's a toy boom. It's a toy
Yeah,
boom,
yeah, it is.
like epidemic.
Yep. Epidemic. It's a good way to
It,
put it.
yeah, but it's a good one, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been awesome talking to you. Like I said, I'm a toy addict. I'm addicted and proud. I'll always preach that. But you
Yes,
know,
sir.
it's great to know that aspect of, you know, what challenges and what real life things we face being a toy collector. Thankfully for you, because you're in the toy industry, it hasn't really had any negative impacts on your life. But I'm sure there's a lot of people with different walks of life that, you know, poverty stricken people that have done crazy shit for a toy,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like, you know, people that have forfeited on their light bill and shit to buy an exclusive or something. So it's an interesting story. Everybody has their take and their story behind this hobby, and
Yeah.
it was definitely awesome to hear your story and find out about your information.
Well, thank you.
Also, always awesome to talk to you, man.
Good to see you, man.
For being on the show, and yeah, um, let me end the broadcast. All right, guys. So that's been Toy Addicts Anonymous meeting number 1. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep it locked here on Toy Addict 26 for a lot more new meetings. We'll be talking to a lot of people in the industry and other fellow collectors. So thank you, and I'll see you in the toy house, people.
Bye, everybody.